Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Keeper Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be talking about Call of Cthulhu Classic Edition, which is a reprint of the second edition. This came out in a 2-inch box set, as you can see in the image, on the screen here. So a whole bunch of stuff inside that box set, and really glad that I picked that up. And it is the basis for a new Call of Cthulhu campaign that I will be starting with. I've done several session zeros with some of the players that are coming on, and we should be launching our campaign and starting this upcoming Friday. So I'm really excited about that as well. So today's video, I am going to be going into the Sanity system. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and state that I believe that Call of Cthulhu introduced the concept of sanity and losing sanity and madness and that kind of thing to the tabletop role playing game hobby. I don't think that it existed prior to that. And so this was a major uh, difference between Call of Cthulhu and its predecessors, such as Dungeons and Dragons and such. So it really was a new element of danger that would be facing the player characters, and it is quite often referred to as one of the major stumbling blocks of new player entry into Call of Cthulhu is that it is a very lethal system. So it's oftentimes a great possibility that your character is going to die, but even more so, a great possibility that your character is going to lose his or her mind and just go completely insane and be essentially taken off the board through those means as well, or a combination of both. Go insane and then die. Um, but that was always part of the genre that Call of Cthulhu created. I mean, it certainly is tied to the source material, the lore of uh, H.P. Lovecraft's storytelling, and that's how most of his short stories actually played out, either pure insanity or the characters died, but usually in the insanity route. So let's actually start digging into the sanity system of Call of Cthulhu Classic Edition, which once again is the reprint of the second edition primarily. And I will expand this so you can read along as well. So, Chapter 4, Insanity, is the primary cause of investigator disablement. Here, the use of sanity and its effects and benefits of its loss are explained. Several methods of recovery of san are also provided. General. Sanity is a natural mental state of ordinary life. It is possible to lose this state of mind when confronted with the horrors and terrors of the Cthulhu mythos. It is possible to regain or even increase one's initial san. Knowledge of the Cthulhu mythos always lowers a character's san. Knowledge of the Cthulhu mythos always lowers a character's maximum sanity. Temporary insanity can be cured permanently. Permanent insanity results when a character's san is reduced to or below 0. Permanent insanity is incurable. Using san. All characters are required to roll their san as a percentage whenever encountering a monster which is unnatural or which is behaving sufficiently unnaturally, such as attacking a horde of frothing rats, to endanger a person's san. Sometimes a situation such as finding a companion horribly and inexplicably mutilated will also call for a sanity roll. Further, a character must lose san when reading certain books and when attempting to learn and or cast certain spells. A successful roll usually means the character loses either no or a minimal amount of sanity and is capable of continuing his current actions until confronted with a different danger. But each confrontation, even if involving first reading a book, then casting a spell from the book, then facing the monster conjured by the spell, requires another san roll. Confronting a number of monsters at one time or in rapid succession, such as a series of attacking dahols, calls for just one roll. However, if encounters are spread out over several hours, then successive rolls are needed to simulate the situations. Failure to make a san roll always means that the character loses some sanity. The amount lost depends on the monster type or on the situation as ruled by the keeper. Losing sanity may also cause the character to go temporarily insane as described below. Finally, when a character's san is reduced to 0, he is hopelessly, incurably insane and becomes a non-player character for the keeper to play. Insanity, shock and temporary loss. Whenever a character loses 5 or more points of sanity in a single experience, he has suffered a terrible shock. He must make a D100 roll. If he succeeds in an idea roll, then he has realized the full significance of what he beheld and will go temporarily insane. The keeper should determine what happens, and the investigator will remain in the resulting state for the amount of time shown by rolling the temporary insanity timetable below. So, temporary insanity timetable, rolling a d10. If you roll a 1 to a 4, it is d10 combat rounds. Rolling a 10, let's say it is 1d10 days that the character will remain in this temporary insanity phase. If the roll is over the character's idea roll, the investigator does not go mad, but may not clearly remember what he just experienced. Temporary insanity due to this type of loss need not represent true insanity. The character may just faint, go into hysterics, or suffer a nervous breakdown. It is likely that he will receive a phobia associated with the cause of his insanity. Indefinite insanity. Whenever a character loses 20% or more of his current san in a single hour, he will automatically go insane. To find the exact mania induced by the experience, the keeper must pick an appropriate infirmity from the insanity table on page 25. The effect begins immediately. This type of insanity is indefinite, and the sufferer will not recover of his own accord. Recovering from insanity is described in Curing Insanity below. I'm going to skip over the example, and I'm just going to go to typical sanity losses. So if you are surprised by a corpse, it is 1d3. If you are surprised by a mangled corpse or animal, it's 1d3. If you're surprised by a fragment of a corpse, it is 1d4. surprised by horribly mangled corpse, 1d6. Waking up in a tomb or coffin, 1d6. Sec good friend or close relative die. C, that should be C. Sorry. See good friend or close relative die, a d6. Meet someone you know to be dead, 1d8. Witnessing bizarre occurrence, sky turns green, 1d8. Witnessing grisly bizarre occurrence, gigantic blood head falls from the heavens, a d10. And undergo severe torture is a d10. The value of insanity. It is possible for a character who has gone mad to gain from the experience in two ways. First, the character may add to his Cthulhu Mythos skill. The first time a character goes temporarily or indefinitely insane from any Mythos type source, he may add 5% to his Cthulhu Mythos skill. Each time he goes insane thereafter, he may add an additional 1 to his Cthulhu Mythos skill. Secondly, a madman may gain an unnatural insight into the problems of monster facing him. Whether this happens is determined by rolling a number greater than the character's ideal roll or percentile dice after going insane. Keeper judgment and sensitivity are needed to help maintain game balance and dramatic tension. Regaining and increasing sanity skills. Each time a character attains 90% ability in a skill during the course of the game, including skills at 90% at the start of the campaign, he is allowed to add 2d6 more points of sanity to his current san, though his san may still not exceed 99 minus his Cthulhu Mythos. This addition to san represents the self-discipline and self-esteem gained in mastering a skill. Defeating monsters. When a character manages to defeat a monster, he may manifest the increased confidence he gains by his performance by increasing his sanity by an amount equal to the normal danger or san which the being possessed or posed. If he kills a dimensional shambler, for example, he gains d10 sanity points. His san may not increase past the limit of 99 minus Cthulhu Mythos. If a temporarily or indefinitely insane character manages to defeat a monster and regain san, he does not become cured of his insanity. He must still recover normally for temporary insanity or undergo treatment for indefinite sanity. See Curing Insanity below. The criteria for defeating a monster have purposefully been left vague. The keeper should decide what the goals of the monster were, whether or not the investigators succeeded in foiling it, and whether the characters realized that the monster's goals were blocked. All right, so you don't necessarily have to kill or destroy the creature. All you basically have to do is ascertain what its goals are and be confident that you have interfered with those goals. And then you would gain the potential bonus to your or recovery of your sanity, having overcome that challenge. The criteria for defeating a monster have purposely been left vague. All right, I just read that, sorry. Realize the monster's goals were blocked. All right, so here we go. If the monster had no particular aims beyond the immediate destruction or hampering of the characters, defeat generally consists of slaying it or permanently driving it away. Whether one monster or 100 were defeated, the sand gain is about the same. If the greater number were defeated, the keeper may desire to increase the sand reward to its maximum for the type. Under no circumstances should the sand reward be increased beyond the maximum possible for the type of being. So if the maximum possible is a d6, let's say, the most you can get is 6 points of sanity from defeating that challenge. Psychoanalysis. It is possible to increase sand through intensive psychoanalysis, though it can never increase a character's maximum sand. One psychoanalyst may work on one player character per week. If the psychoanalyst makes his skill roll that week, then the patient gains 1 point of sand. However, if the psychoanalyst rolls 96 to 100, then the patient loses 1d6 sand. The sand may never be raised higher than the character's luck roll by this method. If his sand is already higher than his luck roll, psychoanalysis is of no avail in raising sand. Some people are always a little shakier than others. If a psychoanalyst makes a special roll on a D100, 20% or less the needed roll, or equal to the chance for an impale, then the patient regains 1d3 of sanity that week. All right, so sanity can either be cured by just 1 point, but if the psychoanalyst was really successful, all right, so 20% or less of what they did need to roll, then they can heal up to 1 to 3 points of sanity for that week. So the insanity table, used for indefinite insanity. You have catatonia, you have amnesia, you have stupefaction. Victim stands with no will or interest and will not talk or communicate, so being like stupefied. Pantophobia, a fear of everything. Paranoia, character is positive that everyone is an enemy. The phobia list, all right, so phobia, and then you pick one of the 6. You have agoraphobia, a fear of open places. Bacteriophobia, fear of bacteria. Ballistophobia, fear of bullets. Barophobia, fear of loss of gravity. Claustrophobia, fear of enclosed spaces. Demophobia, fear of crowds. Dendrophobia, fear of trees. Dorophobia, fear of fur. Entomophobia, fear of insects. Nyctophobia, fear of the night. And ophiophobia, fear of snakes. Scotophobia is a fear of darkness. Teratophobia is the fear of monsters. Thalassophobia is a fear of the sea. And xenophobia is a fear of foreigners. Something that H.P. Lovecraft suffered himself. Curing sanity. Psychoanalysis. It is possible for competent characters to attempt to psychoanalyze other characters to cure them of their temporary insanity. Until cured, in this manner, the PC will continue to be insane. I'm not going to go too much because I kind of detailed this and I explained this. The availability of psychoanalysis. All right, so this is a good chart to use because it will say, it'll come up with what's the chances of finding within a population a psychoanalyst. In other populations of 300,000 or more, roll a power times 1 or less on a D100 to find an analysis. Only one roll is possible per game year. All right. Basically, up to in a city that has between 100 and 300,000, you need to roll between a 1 and a 50. So basically a 50-50 chance. Once you get above 300,000, it's a 95% chance of finding a psychoanalysis. Curing insanity by institution or institutionalization. It is possible for characters to recover sanity by being committed to an institution. Psychology at this time was primitive at best. However, there is a distinct danger in the process. In the 1920s, insane asylums, the phrase mental health facility was not yet to come, ranged from enlightened bastions of healing to real snake pits. Even if the player character's friends know enough to avoid a real quackworks, enlightened psychotherapy of the period has its pitfalls. For instance, electroshock therapy might shock a player character out of his insanity while lowering his intelligence until he is useless as an investigator. Each time a character is institutionalized for insanity, the keeper should establish a cure rate for the place by rolling a D100 and subtracting 25 from the result. If the result is under 1, then the place is for caretaking only and has no chance of curing the insane. The keeper should retain an institution's cure rate in his records, as the players may want to use the place again if it restores the first character they bring to be cured. Each 1d6 game months, review the characters to see if he can be released. The keeper rolls a d100 against the cure rate of the institution. If the roll is equal to or less than the cure rate, the character is cured and free. If not, then the character loses a d6 sand points. If the roll is 96 to 100, then the character loses 1d6 points of sand, and the keeper rolls on the institutional disaster table. I believe it's backwards. The top might be a misprint. If not, then the character loses. Let's see. If the roll is equal to or less than the cure rate, the character is cured and free. If not, okay. If not, they lose 1d6 points of sand. All right, so if they fail, they lose 1d6. If they roll a 96 to 100, then the character loses the same amount of sand. All right, so now I got it cleared up in my head. All right, and the keeper rolls on the institutional disaster table. So let's see what the institutional disasters look like. On a 1 to a 20, the disfigurement losses d6 points of appearance. On a 21 to 40, poor health loses 1d6 points of constitution. On a 41 to 55, muscle atrophy loses 1d6 points of strength. On a 56 to 70, mental damage loses 1d6 points of intelligence. On a 71 to 85, nerve damage loses 1 to 6 points of dexterity. And on an 86 to 100 coma, roll 1d10 each month. If the roll equals con or less, the awakened is cured. If the roll is between con and con times 5, continue to sleep. If the roll is over con times 5, lose 1d6 con and continue to sleep. I'm guessing if their con gets to zero, um, that may actually result in death from the shock. But I will look at that later on. The availability of institutions. If a character goes mad anywhere in Europe, the Western Hemisphere, Japan, or colonial influenced country, there will be an institution of some sort available to the authorities for incarcerating madmen. If the keeper rules that this is not a true mental illness institution, the cure rate can be found by rolling D100 and subtracting 50. If the result is under 1, the institution has no intention of curing the mad, just locking them away. Many Muslim influenced countries had no institutions available. Madmen were touched by Allah and were left alone to make what way they could in the world. Again, the player will have to hope for rescue of some sort of character. And then we go into the population so that you can determine which cities and such will have these large populations as you're looking for them. I'll be curious to see where Arkham falls in this. Let's see. Arkham might be a strange difference. They have Boston here, so Boston is at 748,000. Might have to ship the characters off to Boston, looking for that. And then we get into the Cthulhu mythos. So there you have it. I mean, you have the sanity system that is in play. Once again, remember this is one of the major challenges to the player characters is maintaining their sanity as they're going throughout their investigations of these various things. I know it's often joked about that hey, a campaign might only last a few sessions before the characters are either completely insane or dead or whatever, have to be institutionalized. So there is that none of these adventures are really meant to be something that the player characters can overcome easily, and certainly not meant for them to step out of these experiences unscathed, whether it be mentally unscathed or physically unscathed. And if you read through H.P. Lovecraft's stories, you'll see that he has very few reoccurring characters, and there's the reason for that is that these are very, very challenging encounters that the player characters are going to have when encountering the realization of the Cthulhu mythos, and that is, at least for me and for many, many other people, that's the real draw to Call of Cthulhu. It really is a unique gaming experience where it's not so much keeping track of your character's hit points, even though there are hit points in this, but it's actually much more challenging and much more enjoyable, in my opinion, to keep track of their sanity and to see, how much can my character's mental toughness be able to handle before he or she, eventually loses their wits about them and goes completely insane. So really is a cool system. It's a very simple system, right? So it's a D100 system, and pretty much if you fail your roll, you're going to gain D6 insanity points, and if you go beyond your threshold, which means you hit 0 sanity or less, then you are you're going to lose control over your character. So really is a nice system. Again, one of the things that really drew me to this game system back in the early 1980s. Um, this was the edition that I was introduced to the game, so that would have been 1981. So I was all but 14 years old the first time that I encountered Call of Cthulhu. And, just what a great experience that had been. This was one of our more popular games to run throughout the 1980s up until we're probably 2 or possibly 3 years out of high school. So we played 6 days a week, and we mixed it up. For most of it was AD&D First Edition, but Call of Cthulhu was at least once a week that we played throughout all of those years. So we have a lot of sessions, with Call of Cthulhu under our belt. And yes, we went through a lot of characters. I couldn't even tell you how many characters we had gone through. Playing Call of Cthulhu, it was just something that, I can almost visualize all of my characters in AD&D that we played for nearly 10 years on a, 2 or 3 times a week basis for that 10 years. And I remember those characters, or virtually all of those characters, because they had a much higher survival rate. And the same could not be said for Call of Cthulhu. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like and subscribe and to share. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon or at a convention. I will make this announcement that I just got in the mail. I just got in the mail for Hyperborea. All right, Rats in the Wall. So once I start digging into Hyperborea, maybe one of the first things I'm going to run is Rats in the Walls. If you're not familiar, Rats in the Walls is is an H.P. Lovecraft story. So a little crossover action here, and so keeping up that Call of Cthulhu and the Cthulhu mythos theme with what I've been looking to cover these next couple of weeks and months going forward through to 2024. That's something else that I'm certainly going to look to run and play in as well. So you all have a great rest of your weekend. I know it's Sunday night, so enjoy your Sunday night, and probably about a half an hour or so, it's going to be the Super Bowl. So if you're going to be watching the game with your friends and family, enjoy the game. And if not, then enjoy whatever other activity you're going to wrap up your weekend with. Have a good one. Take care.